Eastern Africa area. Now, if I were to paradrop troops here, I could then build up the infrastructure on my own, allowing us to build essentially a road along here. But I don't need to, because I have control over the waterway. I can just move people over by boat. My navy is pretty beat up. I've been losing lots of ships. This is where most of my navy is right now. I only really have one battleship. He sunk 2 ships, a light carrier and a destroyer. I think I do have more than just him. Nope. Yeah, I may have just lost so many guys, but I'm pretty sure I did have more left over. There we go, there he is. This is the other fleet that I have, because I knew I still had a fleet hanging around to drop all of the troops off in here. And this one has my other surviving battleship, who has a lot more kills. He's killed, you know, a battleship of his own and a few others. And he's escorting these transport ships. But the British have definitely lost more. I don't know how many I've shot down just from bombing attacks, because again, I kept trapping him in Malta, and then I would just bomb him to death with naval bombers and sink all of his ships when they're in port. And if they tried to escape, well, then they would get intercepted and attacked a lot. So it's a bit of a slowdown right now. Things aren't going too well. Well, we've really lost a lot of momentum. This area here has hardly any supplies, so they're just stuck. I'm trying to get them to reposition. Hope that I can get more supplies in for them. Might end up being worthwhile to set up more ports along the coast here, as I can do that by simply clicking here and get a naval base up. I have had to stop these guys from bombing, because when they do bomb someone, they end up using supplies, and that chokes out these guys from getting the precious supplies that they need. So that's a lot of the tactics, my grander tactics involved in this game, but there's a lot more than just, you know, what you plan on doing, because the game has a whole bunch of different tabs on it. Like, diplomacy is pretty straightforward. You have 3 factions in this game, and you try to pull other nations towards your faction so they may end up joining your war. And also on here, like, I will always just click automate trade, so that my nation will just figure out what to trade for, because your resources are very important, and I am losing a lot of resources. My stockpiles are burning up. They will eventually run out, and if that happens, that will slow down my production, which is over here. And generally, with my industrial capacity, which determines, you know, how much you can build at one time, I will just click on these little tabs here to prioritize upgrades. Get the upgrades done, and then the rest will go towards reinforcement. And well, usually it will prioritize upgrades, supplies, reinforcements, consumer goods, which is why I do it. If you don't get enough consumer goods, your people get gain unrest, and then that creates a penalty on industrial capacity. So you want to get rid of unrest, so you need to be making sure that you're getting enough consumer goods. And then production, if, you know, I have any left over, then it goes into it. And I have 150 industrial capacity. One of the reasons I've been increasing it a lot has to do with how the game's technology works. At least this mod's technology. In the game, you gained leadership through your provinces. You clicked on a territory, and you would see how much leadership you got from it. In Historical Plausibility Project, there is no territory-based leadership. It is actually based on your regional status, which you can find, I believe, in the politics here. Yeah, in your international status. So an undeveloped country only has a leadership of +1. And eventually you can go up to like regional power. I'm a major power here. If I want to go to a great power status, I need 200 IC, 300 brigades, and I have 260. I need at least 15 planes and 30 ships. So I would need another 50 IC being produced. And what you can actually see up here is this breaks down my IC, how much I'm wasting, what my base IC is, and how much I have available in total. That total number is based on a lot of different modifiers, but the base is sitting at 97 IC, and that is mostly from territories like this guy here. You can see how many levels of industrial capacity he has. He has 9 levels of industrial capacity. And that goes into your base number, and then there are some other things like based on my war economy plus 25%. There are some few other upgrades as well, like in your technology, under industry. You can boost your IC even more, 17.5% if I get the next upgrade here. But I will keep on to the sort of production tab for now. Some other things that you can get for modifiers are, these are your resource-based ones, like tungsten and uranium. Some of these things you will actually be able to see on the map. In this mod, they changed them around. Yeah, resources. So right here I have rubber. Somehow, for some reason, there's rubber in Italy, and there's also, you know, rubber up here in Germany somewhere. But they've changed around the strategic resources in this mod due to a lot of the changes that they've done. And so they're not as powerful as they were in vanilla, which is kind of nice. I don't know, it's a little weird since before, like, Romania would have they would have a strategic resource here, which was an oil refinery that basically doubled your refining efficiency of crude oil into fuel. But now they just have a ton of fuel sitting here. Same with Baku. If I took over Baku, I would have gotten an oil refinery strategic resource, not just a bunch of oil. And instead they've gone and given them like tungsten in the mountains here. So it is a little weird, but it's not too terribly bad for me. I don't seem to mind it too much. As for the stuff that I'm actually building, you see I'm finishing up my radar stations, building naval bases and convoys, getting a battleship queued up. Battleships, certain things will take a very long time to build, and you can see how much IC he's going to take and when he's going to be done. The reason you will want to keep some things being built at all times has to do with the sort of efficiency of building them. So if I wanted to build a battleship, I would see down here that the my practical level of capital ship will reduce the building cost and time by 38.7%. And when I build one of these, I will actually get plus 1.5 to my practical. So that will reduce the next battleship's cost by like 1.5. And Italy does start off with a very high capital ship practical. So usually you will want to keep that up because it will decay over time. And other things about when you do build a ship is they will have different stats on them and upgrades. And when you get upgrades on a ship, you cannot upgrade all of them when you have built it, like the main guns here. If I upgrade a better main gun, I cannot get the battleship upgraded in combat when it's deployed. I will have to basically rebuild it or build a new one. So, but ships are the only real unique ones for these upgrades. Every other unit, like an infantry, if I, there we go, click on this guy, we can see that he's got a whole list of different kinds of upgrades on him. And some of them, like small arms, will upgrade. I will scroll down here to actually point at them. So the small arms, it's currently a 1940 technology, and I am running a little behind on my infantry small arms. I'm actually researching it right now, and it should be... there he is. He's almost done. It's almost done. Once it is done, then he will start upgrading, and I will have to start paying more IC to do that upgrade. It does cost a little more IC in the long run if you build a unit before you actually get the upgrade, because when these guys are built, they will all have to then get the upgrade when they're built afterwards. So sometimes you will want to wait for an upgrade to be finished in your technology before you start actually building that unit. Usually it's what I do at the beginning of the game. I will focus on things like industrial capacity and infrastructure for about the first year, and then when I start getting the technologies done and the upgrades out, then I start building units. There are some exceptions. Some nations like China and Japan will end up at war after a year. So in that case, you kind of want to be prioritizing producing stuff rather than just upgrading, because if you spend a year upgrading factories and then you end up at war in a year, you're going to be a little short on soldiers. Now, when you are making some of your other units, like with your aircraft, it's very similar to the boats, but they can upgrade in combat. And see all the different kinds of stats that they have as well. But with the infantry or the ground forces, you end up with this big list of different kinds of troops, and these are all brigades. So if I want to make a division that I move around on the map, I can go and say, okay, I want motorized infantry, and, or actually in particular, let's go mechanized to show that off. So I can say, oh, I want 2 mechanized infantry. These guys, they move 18 kilometers an hour, so they're very fast. The only guys who will come close to it are things like the mechanized supports and the light armoreds. And the reason you would want to mix some of these different guys up is down here. This is something that came new with the Finest Hour expansion. And these, because normally whenever you combine guys, you would get a flat combined arms bonus, but now it will actually tell you what the combined bonus is. And I have some technology that will even increase this more. So with this, I'm getting about a 30% upgrade to my combat efficiency from combined arms. And so this is a really formidable formation here, but it might not be the best, and that has to do with this right here, combat width, which, like it says here, how much space this particular brigade occupies in combat. And so this whole unit will take up 4 combat width. It actually takes up a little more, but the light armor takes up 2 width. The motorized or the mechanized guys take up 1 width, and the mechanized support actually takes up 0, which isn't actually true, because in this mod, I think they do because in vanilla your support brigades come in a lot more variety. You have artillery, anti-aircraft, and anti-tank. But in this mod, they all come bundled in one support regiment. So you end up with like horse-towed support regiment, truck-towed, and mechanized support regiments. And these have, you kind of can't see it very well there, so I'll actually just find a unit who has a support guy in him. and scroll down here. So in here you have artillery, anti-tank, anti-air, and also rockets and armored cars. So this has a collection of different kinds of armored or of support units. Whereas in vanilla, this would be broken down into individual ones. You would have armored cars in one brigade and rockets in another brigade, anti-air in another brigade, which I actually don't mind that at all, because when you are teching that up, you can specifically say, okay, tech up the anti-tank guns here, or the anti-air or the rockets. And you can neglect them if you don't feel that they're needed. Like if I felt that, you know, I don't need to be spending all of this tech points and IC to upgrade my anti-air guns. So I can stop upgrading that if I wanted to. Whereas in vanilla, you would simply just build a unit that had that bonus to it. So it's a little different on how these support regiments work, and it helps condense a lot of the variety so you don't have a massive list. Like I have the Black Ice mod, and that mod has, you basically have to scroll up and down because they have so many different varieties of brigades in it. And in this, it's very short list, which in a way makes it a lot, you don't have to make as much of a tough call, because I found that I used about half of what you had available in Black Ice, simply because you'd look at the others and say, I don't really need that. But in here, they all have their use. You will mostly like use your horse-toed guys early on because they move about the same speed as your infantry does, and then when you move up to your motorized guys, you go to the truck-toed. And then they start to, this mod does some other things that are really different with technology, and it has to do with your tactics. Tactics used to be something in the vanilla version of Hearts of Iron 3. There was no real penalty to doing them. You just did them because they were free to upgrade your guys, and the upgrades came instantly. But in this one, outside of the training, you have to go down specific tiers, and so every couple of years, once I go and unlock this maneuver focus, it will ask me what my 1946 tech focus will be for this group here, and then I can say, do I want this one or this one or this one, and they will give me different bonuses. So I've been going down this infiltration route because it gives me terrain bonus modifiers, and they keep going up and up. But as you go up, you'll notice that some of them change the types of units. So at the beginning, it's all like infantry. So militia, mountain infantry, cavalry. No real infantry, but they are good for special forces and cavalry. And then down to the next one, it upgrades my infantry, then more of my special forces. But then on maneuver, it goes to the motorized infantry, marines, and paratroopers, and mechanized. And then when we go even further down, it just upgrades the mechanized guys, which is pretty true for all of these ones. And then of course for the tanks, there's another section for when you want to focus on what kind of tanks you want. Do you want your infantry support, your sort of blitzkrieg style of tank tactics, or a combined arms approach, which will boost, by the looks of it, just your regular medium armor tanks and some light armored, but it's mostly the medium guys. This role, the infantry support, is for the infantry support tanks and for the light tanks, with some heavier and tank destroyer ones at the very bottom. But the medium one is all for, like, it will actually reduce the combat width of like mechanized soldiers, and I think even some of your armored vehicles will have reduced combat width as well. Then you have like operations, which you can pick one of these to go down every time you choose a branch. So do you want to go down your grand battle strategy, or your combined, or your superior firepower, blitzkrieg, or human wave?